In the midst of Europe's industrial revolution, a man emerged who would reshape history, economics, and the way we see society. His name was Karl Marx, and his ideas, radical in their time, would inspire revolutions and social movements for generations to come. Karl Heinrich Marx was born on May 5, 1818, in the small town of Trier in what is now modern-day Germany. His family of Jewish descent had converted to Christianity. His father, Heinrich Marx, was a lawyer with liberal views, instilling in Karl a passion for justice and reform. Marx excelled academically, studying law and philosophy at the universities of Bonn and Berlin. It was in Berlin that Marx first encountered the works of the philosopher Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, whose ideas deeply influenced him, but Marx's thinking would soon take a different path. In 1843, Marx moved to Paris, a hotbed of political activism. It was here that Marx met his lifelong collaborator Friedrich Engels, a wealthy factory owner's son, who shared Marx's disdain for the conditions of the working class. Engels introduced Marx to the grim realities of industrial capitalism, showing him the dire poverty in England's factories. This was the final piece of the puzzle for Marx, pushing him to develop his theory of historical materialism, a theory that argues that human societies developed through class struggles and that capitalism itself was doomed to collapse under the weight of its contradictions. In 1848, Marx and Engels published one of the most influential political documents in history, the Communist Manifesto. In it, they proclaimed that the history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles. Marx called for the workers of the world to unite, arguing that only through revolution could they overthrow the capitalist system. The manifesto spread across Europe like wildfire, especially in the wake of the 1848 revolutions. Although these revolutions failed, Marx's ideas continued to gain traction among labor movements and socialist groups worldwide. After being expelled from several European countries due to his radical ideas, Marx settled in London in 1849. Though he lived in relative poverty, often relying on financial support from Engels, Marx remained dedicated to his work. It was during this time that Marx worked on his magnum opus, Das Kapital, a groundbreaking analysis of political economy in which he examined how capitalism functioned, exploiting labor to generate profit. Marx believed that capitalism was inherently exploitative and that its collapse was inevitable. Although only the first volume of Das Kapital was published in Marx's lifetime, the work laid the foundation for much of modern socialist and communist thought. Marx passed away on March 14, 1883, at the age of 64. He was buried in Highgate Cemetery in London with only a handful of people attending his funeral. Yet, his ideas lived on. In the decades that followed, Marx's works inspired revolutions, most notably the Russian Revolution in 1917, led by Vladimir Lenin. His ideas influenced countless movements for social justice, workers' rights, and anti-colonial struggles throughout the 20th century. While many regimes that claimed to follow Marx's teachings strayed from his ideals, the impact of his work is undeniable. Karl Marx envisioned a world where the working class would rise to create a society free from exploitation. Though his utopian vision remains unfulfilled, his critique of capitalism continues to resonate in a world where inequality still persists. Today, Marx remains a towering figure in history, one whose ideas challenge us to rethink the systems that shape our lives. This has been a brief look at the life and legacy of Karl Marx.